Hey guys, so this is my LinkedIn Everything system. As for today, we're going to be going through a number of updates. You can see that if you have already used this, there are some additional workflows down there or towards the right-hand side. And we'll be going those towards the end. They focus on personalization and, let's say, further engagement of connected accounts to increase the likelihood of people working with you. But first of all, we'll go through some other quick little updates that I've done to every single part of this system, which you can implement now if you want to, and then we'll go into those towards the end. The first, which is most notable, is reducing the amount of interactions that are happening with LinkedIn through the API. Now, the only reason this is probably beneficial is it speeds up the workflow. It means that you're not having to worry about viewing too many profiles or doing too much actions so that you get limited. So you can increase the actual actions that you want to do and reduce the ones that don't really make any sense. And this all revolves around the ID. So when you're pulling and extracting LinkedIn accounts, you've got this link here, and then when you do any of the get provider ID, so any of these get provider IDs here, you get this ID here. And you should be extracting this and pulling this. I only recently started doing it a few weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now. But with it, if you extract this ID for every account, it means that further down the line, you don't need to do this action again. So here, for example, I still have on this workflow for checking if they are pending or not checked. Of course, I've got the get provider there because I want to check their status. In the case whereby I'm sending a connection request, you can see I've removed it. And this is just simply because it's not needed in this case, because I already have the ID and I can just pull it into here from the return send connection request when it's getting pulled through. So you can remove it from there. The same from pretty much any of these other workflows. So here as well for sending messages, you can remove it from that one. So you don't need to have it if you're going to be sending a message. It's just not needed. And technically, you also wouldn't need it for engagement either. You could remove it from here. I have decided to keep it for this one, mainly because I imagine how LinkedIn behaves and what it does. And therefore, I decided it was better for those I am going to engage with that it does behave as if I'm viewing their profile. Because this is what I would do in person. I would have a list of all of their profiles and I would go through them one by one and engage on their content. So here I have left it in. What I've done as well is I've also to increase the human-like behavior of this, I've randomized every single one of these requests. So not only is it getting randomized at the start, because you're sending through multiple requests at a time, I've also randomized this as well. So the batch interval here I put between 3 and 6 seconds. You could do it less if you wanted to, but this seems to work fine for me. I haven't come across any issues so far. And I've done this for pretty much every single instances where I can. Then we have some, let's say, over time improvements that you may want to implement. The first being a not active status. So you can see here now I've got a lot of people which I've switched to not active. And this is because they've essentially been running through this system, going from send connection request to pending, and then let's see. And they've been doing it now for 2+ months, at which point, if they haven't clicked withdraw or ignore on anything, then you can only assume they are not active on LinkedIn at that given time. And therefore it is useless for them to be in your system and for them to be consistently being checked in your system. So what I've done here is I've got this little setup, and I've got it set up over here. So it'll go next to where it says if pending, but this is what it looks like. And I've got an if date, and the if date I've got it set to 2 months. You could obviously change that depending on what you prefer, 1 month, 3 months, up to you. I've got it for 2 months. And so if after 2 months they go through their system and they do not withdraw or engage or whatever, they will just get set to not active. And I will probably have to remove them after some amount of time as well. For now, I have left them in there because I don't want them to be getting pulled into this list again by accident, and then they get thrown into the system. For now, I'm just building them in here. I'm sure there'll be a way for me to clean them from this list without them being in here in the future update as well. Next, we have, let's say, what I would consider the more exciting updates, the more interesting personalization aspect. So here we have, let's say, personalization going through a number of different forms. The first, we've got it on the connection message. So this is up here. It's following on from the connection one. And here we've got a personalized connection message system going through. And the main difference we have in here is in the get provider ID, we obviously have LinkedIn sections. And this allows you to pull all of the details from that account. And with this one, you need to make sure that you've got it set to be running at quite a high threshold. So here I've got it from 31 plus 20. So here we're running 22 seconds or more. And so you want to make sure that it has at least that, if not more. Otherwise, it will stop pulling through all the relevant information. It will still work. It just won't pull through the information. There is a limit on that, I think, once every 30 seconds or so. So you may even want this to be even more. Then we're getting the posts. So here I've just linked in the get post one, obviously, and you can get this from get engagement. So over here on the engagement, you have get posts there. So you can get the post and you can pull that down here. If there's an error, I've just set them to ignore. So like this is, sometimes there are people's profiles which are locked for whatever reason. And honestly, you could go through these ones yourself. You could set up like a notification to send you an email. But in my honest opinion, if they've done that to their profile because they don't want to be contacted, then why spend the effort? Why not just spend the effort on people who are open to be contacted? But that's up to you. So I've just set this to them to go to ignore. Anyway, get post. We're then going to update the Airtable. And so we're going to update the Airtable with the ID, the company, text, description, and summary. Text is the post. So you can see when I go over to here, I have these additional columns now: post, description, and long text. And this is basically whereby I'm pulling their post in, I'm pulling in the description, and I'm pulling in their summary. Now, it doesn't always pull in everything. A lot of times, sometimes the description and the summary doesn't get pulled, and that's simply because they just don't have one. So I wouldn't worry about that. But in the end, we are still getting more information from their profile. And this is pretty important. And so here, it will then pull that into this AI agent, which is a very simple, in this case, LinkedIn connection message generator. And it's using all of these fields. It's keeping it below 150. And I'm ending it with this: have a great week. And it is crafting a personalized message for them. Now, you could obviously leave some further examples and additional context, but transparently, it's probably already been trained. Like any of the AI tools have probably already been trained on messaging out there. Here, I'm just using Gemini just purely because I'm forced to pay for it via Workspace. Thank you, Google. So might as well use it. But nonetheless, and then it will send the invite, and then it will obviously, everything else is the same in there. So that's the connection one. From there, we of course also have personalized messaging. So for the chats, it's pretty much the same concept, and it's still included LinkedIn sections because you don't know when people are going to update their accounts. Transparently, most people you're going to target aren't going to be updating their account that often, but on the off chance that between the connection message and 2-3 days later, they do update their profile and you don't update your automation, so you send them an automated message which is based upon old news, I think it's just not worth the hassle, or not. It's worth just getting it to do the additional check and updating the system as and when. So it'll update it again here. It'll get a fresh post, always important. It'll update the records. And then, of course, here we've got the agent free. And here I've left like an example message below here, but everything else is pretty much the same. You could increase this to 250 characters, I think, at this point, but everything else I wouldn't change too much. I would just give it some examples, train it up however you want. You could obviously create your own personalized trained one if you wanted to. It's up to you. Now, what we have done very differently in the personalized messaging one is I've changed it from a wait node. You can see here, we've got a wait node here, wait node there, to an if node. And to be honest, I wish I had done this sooner. I didn't realize it was so simple and straightforward. But we can see, obviously, you've got created date and updated date here. This is done automatically by Airtable. You just have to add the column. It's there. It's fantastic. Which means that if they have just been updated to connected, then if only those who have been in connected for 2 days and nothing has changed on them for 2 days, will they then get pulled through? Which is how it's going to happen. No, which means there's no wait node needed, which avoids any annoyances. To be honest, I found wait nodes to be very frustrating to work with because you couldn't, if you did have to pause the workflow, they would keep on running and you'd have to go through and delete them all in case there were issues that were coming up. But with this, that's not going to be a problem. And I've been running it for the last few weeks and it seems to be working fine. So anyway, instead we've got an if date and it's just purely using the update date, and then it pulls through. Everything else is the same. Here at the bottom, we have the if date as well. And this has got it for 4 days. And so if they haven't had any change in their account system for 4 days, all is good. Obviously, at all given times, the reply one is being running. So these accounts are being checked for replies consistently, or your account is. But here, what we're doing, just to double check that, because there's always a small chance that the one profile could potentially be a good client you accidentally end up sending a double message to. Sometimes it doesn't matter. But here I've set up a get messages, and I've basically taken over the get messages from this bit, because here we've got the get messages, and this one is working with the chat ID. So here we have, here we have the chat ID. And so this chat ID I'm pulling into it. From that, I can then run the get messages. I can use the chat ID to do. So here is this where you put the chat ID. It'll update replied. It'll pull and then check to see if they have sent me a message. And if in this case they have sent me a message, I'll then update them to replied, which is all good. And then I can do my further checks with them. If not, it will then pull their posts. It will then do the standard grouping. It will update the records. I'm pulling through the records again because it loses them in this node here. And then I'm creating the second message. So again, very simple. Your second message person, I'm giving it an example, and it will craft a personalized message based upon that. So really straightforward and simple, but potentially increasing. And for some clients, this seems to be working really well. I personally don't use this myself. I have a set message I use and it seems to work really well for me. But for other clients I'm working with, having this personalized message system, it seems to be doing incredibly well. We've then got a second part to the update message or the personalized message, and that is doing an engagement. So previously, I was adding these people to a list if they were pending connected, and I was getting them all engaged with. But ultimately, this list becomes too large to monitor and doesn't really work effectively anymore. And realistically, the only people I want to be consistently engaging with are those who have replied to me, said they're interested, but not now, and I want to keep them on my radar and vice versa. I don't want to be engaging with everyone who I'm connecting with on a consistent basis. It's just impossible to do effectively. So here, what I've done is I've added this on. I think you can see here, this goes on to next to update second. And this is purely the engagement part of the matrix, which you'll notice is very similar or is the same as what you have running over here. what we have running over there. And so anyway, this will just make sure that an engagement has been done straight after they have been sent a message. And you could attach this to the first, you attach it to the second, and essentially it'll mean that they'll get a nice comment and a like on their post the moment that, or just after you have sent a message to them, which is the way I would behave normally. So I think this is a pretty good upgrade for the system. And then last but not least, we have personalized messages. This is understanding whether or not they have a post or not. And this is still in development. This is still testing phases, because up here, obviously this one is working based upon the posts they're getting, but transparently, they may be doing a repost, and you probably don't want to be sending them a personalized message based upon a repost they do. It could be a repost about a job application for their friend or something. So here, basically, same as above, to be honest, if 2 days, if they've connected, and then it will go through, get their posts, it'll split them out, and then it'll just check to see if they're a repost. And if they are not a repost, it'll go up here, and it will still do a message. It's still going to do a personalized message based upon all the other information we have available of them, which is fine and still good. But if they do have a post, it'll then go down here, and it will then create a personalized message for them based upon them having a post. Either way, they still get a personalized message based on their profile. Just depends on whether or not a post is included. But yeah, that has been the updates that have been done so far. We've got the randomization of everything. So everything should have a random batch interval now. Highly recommend doing that. Adding a not active. So if someone hasn't been active for a few months. And then, of course, we've got the personalization of the various messaging nodes and engagement of them as well. So there's a lot here that still need to be tinkered on and experimented with. But this is just to give you a brief indication of what's to come. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to share any suggestions you have. Otherwise, yeah, thank you very much.